Warrior's Gate is probably one of the most visually distinctive stories of all of classic Doctor Who. The director really pushes the envelope with long tracking shots, POV shots, black and white backgrounds, and all kinds of unusual camera angles. It's way ahead of its time, and looks much better than just about any Doctor Who story for the rest of the 1980s. As to the story, it's not exactly straightforward, but I'll do my best. The TARDIS lands in a white void, which I assume is the boundary between E-space and N-space. Also there we have a massive transport ship, which is a very impressive model, and it looks just as good inside as well. The crew are clearly inspired by the cast of Aliens, despite none of them being women. There's even the two working class guys doing all the dirty jobs, who act as kind of a Greek chorus. Also on board is Buruk, the navigator, who is a Tharol, a time sensitive who helps the ship travel between universes, or possibly just the one universe, and I'm not even sure if it's E-space or N-space, to be honest. The makeup job is a good one, making him look distinctly alien, but leaving his face free so he can show the full range of expressions. The only thing in this void is a ruined castle, which contains a mirror that allows Tharols and Time Lords to pass through and access another dimension. I used to think that this was the gateway between E-space and N-space, but watching it now, it seems clear that it's just the gateway to another time stream, where the Tharols were rulers of a great civilization before they were brought down and enslaved themselves. So they're not exactly squeaky clean, and from what we see of them, they were right to be brought down. But the humans currently enslaving them are just as bad, if not worse. Essentially, the story tells the beginning of the Tharols rising up and overthrowing their captors, and hopefully not going back to their old ways afterwards. The Doctor doesn't really do anything to help, he's just along for the ride really, and Adric is even more superfluous than usual. But Romana decides to stay behind and help the Tharols free more of their number. Romana's departure is very rushed, and seems just as last minute as when Leela left. It's not completely out of the blue. She does hint to Adric that she might not be around forever, but they could have done a better job of portraying her decision making. The character's been around for 3 years, so she surely deserved a much better send-off. She has appeared since in the books and audios, but sadly never in the main series, which is a real shame, as she's a very strong character with a unique relationship to the Doctor, and there's any number of actresses who would be great in the role. K9 also leads in this story, but he does come back in 3 different spin-off series, as well as in the main show. The character was fun to start with, but he feels very out of place in the current direction of the show, so it's no surprise they got rid of him. But I will be covering his next appearance soon enough, so stay tuned for that. Of the guest cast, David Weston as Buruk has the biggest journey, from tortured slave to liberator, and manages to convey his emotional state with the minimum of expository dialogue. Clifford Rose as Rorvik is arguably the villain. It could be argued that he's just trying to save his ship and crew from an impossible situation, but he does take every opportunity to threaten violence and tortures the Tharols with no guilt whatsoever, so he thoroughly deserves his comeuppance at the end. And Kenneth Cope as Packard is a fine foil to him. He's kind of like the Wilson to Rorvik's Captain Mainwaring. This is the last of the E-Space trilogy, and it's been a strong mini-series overall. All 3 stories are very successful in their own right. The first 2 show E-Space as a kind of Bermuda Triangle area, where ships go when they fall out of the main universe and never come back. This one is more about the interface between E-Space and N-Space, but if you assume that the empire of the Tharols, and latterly the human slavers who succeeded them, was all going on in E-Space, then you get much more of a background for the area. If a similar story arc was done nowadays, you can imagine there would have been much more of a link between the stories, like if the slavers in this story came from Pterodon, same as the ship in Full Circle. That way they could have reused the same set in both stories, and also given Adric something to do, perhaps have him consider joining the crew, as they are kind of his own people. I guess with all 3 stories being written and produced in a different order, that wouldn't have been possible at the time, and frankly it's a miracle that they all turned out as well as they did, which is very well indeed. The DVD has more than an hour of special features. The Dreaming is a 27-minute making of, where we learn that Christopher Bidmead rewrote most of the dialogue, so it's his fault if it doesn't make any sense. And a lot of it is about the director's struggle to make cinema quality visuals on a TV shooting schedule, which was perhaps overambitious, but good on him for trying. The Boy with the Golden Star is a 19-minute interview with Matthew Waterhouse, where he talks through all of his stories. So it's quite interesting, but it might have made more sense if they put it on the Earthshock DVD. Lalla's Wardrobe is a 19-minute retrospective of all the outfits Lalla Ward wore on the show, complete with comments from 2 Big Finish writers and random teenage girls they stopped in the street. It all feels a bit shallow to me, but I guess I'm not the target audience. Finally, there's 4 minutes of deleted scenes, which don't really add much. Overall, it's a unique story with a dreamlike atmosphere. You can rewatch it multiple times and still find new things to enjoy. It's kind of like if David Lynch made a Doctor Who story, which is still possible, I guess. But until then, I'll give this a 9. So I'm going to leave the Doctor travelling with Adric for a while. Sorry about that. Next week I'll be covering the first 2 episodes of the new series with Ncuti Gatwa. But don't worry, I will come back and finish off the 4th Doctor's run once the new series is over. So that should be around the beginning of July. So please subscribe to see my thoughts on the new episodes, and I'll see you next time.